right, welcome to Generational Wealth. My name is Jacob Hartz, and I am pleased to be joined by my friend and colleague, Jeff Glickman, estate planning extraordinaire. Jeff, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me here, and really appreciate being called a friend. I agree with that, but sometimes you don't know for sure, so thank you.
Well, I think we're solidly in the friend zone.
I agree with that.
Fantastic. Okay, so before we get into all of the wonderful things that we're going to talk about, I want to do a quick lightning round so that, I know you well, but I want, my legions of viewers to know you well as well. So just a quick lightning round to get us started. Jeff, Titans or Texans?
Oh, Titans. Well, can I a quick pause? That's my favorite football team. And it may be the worst decision I've ever made in my life, but I am sticking with them. I'm very loyal.
Well, then, the rest of this is going to be Titans or Eagles. Obviously,
I've answered that question already.
Titans,
regrettably.
Are
your viewers? Do any of your viewers work for the Titans? Because this could be incriminating. But that's okay.
What I really wanted to come down to here is whether you prefer the Titans or the Bears.
You're going to lose the viewer, but Titans.
And just for reference's sake, are you from Chicago or Tennessee?
Chicago.
So what happened there?
I was a 12-year-old kid, and the Titans had just moved from Houston. They were the Houston Oilers, and I'll just cut to the chase. I jumped on their bandwagon. They went to the Super Bowl. I was looking for a team that was exciting, and so I latched onto them. But
you've been with them ever since.
26 years later.
That's,
lots of tears.
The fact that you've stayed on that bandwagon, I think, absolves you from getting on the bandwagon in the first place, because you've actually been quite loyal to this team.
100%. If they win the Super Bowl, which I can't imagine that ever happening, but if they did, and I get called a bandwagon fan, I'll be deeply hurt.
You were the original bandwagon fan.
That's right. But it has washed out. I am now a fan.
That's right.
The bandwagon has left the barn. I don't know if that's where bandwagons are stored, but
they're down at the bandwagon depot.
That sounds right.
Yeah. They're along there with the Chiefs bandwagon.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so that's actually a good transition, because we've established that you are indeed from Chicago and not Nashville.
Correct. Grew up in Deerfield. Now I live just a few miles from where I grew up, so have not traveled too far.
Stuck around.
Yep.
So what was you're a North Shore guy through and through. What was growing up like for you? And when you were a kid, did you dream of becoming an estate planning attorney?
It was either a baseball player or a lawyer. And when I learned I didn't have the baseball talent, then lawyer it was. But my dad was an accountant and a lawyer. I kind of followed in that footsteps. I saw the skills that he had and the work that he did, and I found that interesting. And so I did the same thing. My background's in accounting. I did a 5-year accounting program, of undergrad and master's at the University of Illinois in Champaign, and then worked for a little over a year at PwC to get a little work experience in accounting. But I knew I would end up going to law school because, again, my dad, I wouldn't say he pushed me in that direction, but I definitely got drawn to the same path he took.
You saw the glamorous lifestyle. You couldn't resist.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So you knew, sounds like early on, that this was a path that you wanted to go down. You had a role model for it, which is always a great thing. But at what point in your schooling did you decide that you wanted to go to law school, actually?
I would say in high school, I knew I would go to law school. And again, the year of work experience was also, there are a couple of reasons for it. One, the law school I really wanted to go to really encouraged work experience. And so I wanted to check that box. But the most important, I should have said this first, the most important thing was to be a licensed CPA, you need not just to pass the CPA exams, but at least at the time when I was going through all this, you needed a year of work experience. And for me, I didn't want to, I got the degrees, finished the exams, and then to stop to take a Titans analogy for the Super Bowl on the 1 yard line. Oh, that's so painful. It didn't make sense to get that close. So I decided take maybe 2 years. It ended up only being a year and a couple months. But Then I went to law school. So I guess I was a planner before knowing I was a planner, because I was definitely planning ahead as a 14-year-old, already kind of knowing what path I wanted to go on for the next 10, 12 years.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people don't have that, or if they do, what they planned on doesn't actually turn out to be what they actually do.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you're really a planner through and through. Is the law school you referenced that you wanted to go to the law school that you actually did end up going to?
It was. I got very fortunate. I went to Northwestern for law school, dream school. I had not expected that I would get admitted there, and when I did, it was a no-brainer for me. And 3 of the best years I've ever had. I loved law school. I got married during law school, so it was just a great time, and I look back very fondly at those years.
That's awesome. Clearly, you must have had a passion for avoiding estate taxes early on. But, and you had your tax background. You kind of did all these steps that you knew would take you to that place. A lot of people in law school have no idea what estate planning is, or if they do, have no desire to make a career of it. And it's sort of a niche of law students who actually go to law school and say, this is what I'm really into and what I'm passionate about. Did you know that going in, or did you discover that when you were there?
Yeah, so like the first day of law school, I had narrowed it down to 2 practice areas. I knew that I wanted to use my tax background because of PwC. I was never on the audit side. I was always on the tax side. And so I wanted to use my tax background, but I didn't want to be a full tax lawyer. I wanted it to be integrated in what I was doing, but not exclusively what I was doing. And so the 2 areas that I really was interested in is mergers and acquisitions, because anytime you're selling a business, there's a tax component to that. Now, usually you'll bring in the tax lawyers to help you with that, but to be able to kind of issue spot those items was something that I was interested in. And so I was really lucky that my first summer, I was at a law firm doing mergers and acquisitions work. And my second summer, I was at a different law firm doing trust and estates. So I was able to compare. And I had a strong lean already to trust and estates. And I loved my time doing mergers and acquisitions, because I was working on some projects that were in the paper, not first page of the Wall Street Journal. Let's maybe say page 6. Yes, exactly. And so those are really cool. But then what I noticed, what really clicked for me, is I love advising people in their capacities as husband, wife, mother, father. For me, that's more exciting to me. Not to say, not saying anything bad about being a corporate lawyer, and that work really is fascinating.
This is a safe space. You can say
just someone watching corporate lawyer, sends me a comment.
I don't think you're going to offend anyone.
Not easy to deal with, families and their personal struggles and the family dynamics, and it takes a certain skill set that I feel I am more aligned with. So I still work with CEOs all the time, but just more so in the capacity of their personal lives.
Sure. That really resonates with me. Not that I'm the subject of this discussion, but it resonates with me a lot, because I think it's really gratifying and fulfilling to be trusted by an individual and work with them, their family members, their children, potentially for several generations. If you're in this business long enough, and that includes what you do, what I do, what personal accountants do, wealth managers do, if you stay with it long enough and you run the right kind of business, then you can really see multiple generations of a family grow up and come together and be their trusted person for whatever role you're playing. And that's a really cool thing. You get gratitude from those people, hopefully some kind of appreciation after a certain amount of time that you don't get from a business entity.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of the draw for me. But yeah, it's really like it's high stakes law, because a lot of my clients who own businesses, they've spent 10, 20, 30, however many years building their business. And then I help plan as part of, if they're exiting in some way, there's different tax strategies we can put in place. And for me, it's like there's so much time and effort that's got into this place. I am just coming in at the very tail end of a lot of hours and late nights and weekends. And it feels like every time a client asks me to help solve their problems, because that's ultimately what I'm asked to do, is solve their problems. Like you mentioned in jest about being drawn towards saving clients money on estate taxes.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the estate tax was until deeper into law school, but that's one of a handful of problems. And some clients, that's not a problem for them. They may be leaving their entire wealth to charity, at which point the estate tax is not something that is particularly onerous for them. It's not something they're focused on. So yeah, to be able to work with clients and help solve their problems, that again, there are things that they've been building towards, or making sure their kids are taken care of. There's a line, I'm gonna screw this up, but from the movie The Descendants, with George Clooney's great movie.
Nice.
Also, any movie that has a title of a trust and estate term
That's right.
is instantly at the top of my list. But it's something like,
it didn't have the box office appeal of Per Sturpies.
that's right, yeah, per Sturpies, that was a low budget.
Straight to video.
Straight to video. VHS, actually, which they don't even make those anymore, right, yeah. But it went straight to VHS. There's a line in that movie, like, you want to give your kids enough to do something, but not too much where they do nothing. And right. That's a common thing that my clients will ask me about, is I want to make sure my kids don't have to worry about money. There's plenty of money in our family. I also want them to reach their potential and not feel almost the burden of having this wealth. And so I feel that weight. I feel the amazing trust that my clients are putting in me, because these are big questions that I'm trying to grapple with.
Absolutely. So as you started your career, you've identified this is what really gets you going, solving these kinds of problems. How are you building your business? I know that a lot of people who start their career at big law firms, such as the venerable one that you worked at and then currently worked at, the apprenticeship model herds people initially into being, grinders, pushing out documents, learning from older attorneys, and spending a lot of time in their office, really becoming experts at their craft, but not necessarily going out and building their business and finding clients. Oftentimes when you reach partner level, you're then expected to go out and find clients. You, on the other hand, have been doing that since almost day one, I think. So tell me a little bit about that, and what kind of tipped you off that was going to be part of your career?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I'm usually a rule follower, so I would follow kind of the path that's laid out for me. But then I also know myself really well, and I knew that if I were fortunate enough to become a partner at a law firm down the road, the job changes. Not for everybody, but for a good chunk of partners, the expectation is you start building relationships with clients. When I said that I know myself, the way I would describe myself is authentic. And I, as a first year, was thinking, okay, so I have another 7 or 8 years to just grind it out, like you said, and then I make partner. And now I need to start developing relationships. So I'll pick up the phone, I'll call accountants, financial advisors, family offices, prospective clients. I thought to myself, I think it would come across as if, well, the only reason I'm calling this accountant right now is because my job description has changed, and it's something that I should be doing right now. And I said, I would much rather build relationships now, because when I become partner, I want to have these really authentic connections, like already ready to go. And so as a first, second, third year associate, I was pretty regularly meeting people for coffees, lunches, just trying to get out there and meet as many people as I could. And for a lot of people that I met that we really hit it off, we grew together, and they would start getting some business and loop me in. And certainly I did not expect for there to be any dividends from these lunches and coffees for a long time, but it started to actually pick up. And then it's like a car, that when you put your foot to the gas, it takes a little to kind of speed up, but then it really takes off. And that's what I noticed with this referral network I built, is it was slow drips and drabs, but then after a while, it's almost like exponential, that it really starts to grow. And so I've been very, very fortunate and grateful that I love all the clients I work with. I'm very lucky to have the clients that I do, and I attribute those relationships to starting early.
That's amazing. If it isn't apparent already, I think you are the most consummate planner in every aspect of your life that I've ever met. So it's very appropriate that you're doing what you're doing and the way that you do it. So now that you're a partner, how has making that transition actually played out? Now that you've put in a lot of that groundwork as you were in your associate years. Tell me a little bit about that transition.
Yeah, so in some respects, the transition was smooth because as an associate, I was already doing things that were more partner-like activities, just managing the client relationship, those going to pitches. I mean, all the stuff that partners do, I was doing a little bit younger. But one thing that was interesting for me was when you're an associate and you're trying to build a team, like I think to practice law and do the work that I do to do it well, you need a team. It's not built to kind of have a one man or woman show. You need others there to support you. And as an associate, it's hard to convince other more junior associates to help on my matters when you have a lot more senior partners who they're the ones writing performance reviews, and it's just the natural hierarchy of a law firm is those associates would want to spend more time with the more senior partners. So the biggest transition for me was less about kind of thinking like a partner and more about how now do I execute upon building a team. Because as an associate, I was doing a lot of my own work myself. And now I'm trying to have kind of more of a team approach where my clients know that I'm always available to them. But for certain things, it may make sense to the client, like a quick one-off or send a document. I want them to know there's a team behind me.
That's fantastic. I have a couple questions for you about the future here. The first one is, I've just got to ask because you're such a planner. 10 years ago, I feel like you knew where you would be 10 years from then. Where are you going to be 10 years from now? What does that look like?
Yeah, so that's interesting.
And I don't ask that to everyone because it sounds like a cliche question, but you in particular, I think actually do have an answer.
No, I'm fascinated by the question because if you asked me that question when I was 10 years old, 20 years old, I would have had an answer that probably would have been actually what it turned out to be. I don't have an answer to that now. And I think actually that is, it may sound as if you're such a planner, how do you not have that answer? I actually think it shows growth as a planner because the whole idea with planning is none of us knows what's down the road. And you have to be very nimble as a planner. You put a plan in place, you have an idea of how the future is going to go, and then change always happens. And you got to be willing to adjust to that. So for me, it was very intentional to how I got to literally this discussion with you, Jacob. But from here until 10 years from today, I don't know. I really don't. And I guess in my 20s, I think that would have scared me. And now I actually find it very liberating and having the confidence that whatever comes up that may kind of change my path, that there will be a way to either get back on track or take that new path. Yeah. So I've learned to be more flexible in my planning than I was as a younger person.
Fascinating. Do you think having young kids has anything to do with that?
Yeah, I'm sure that makes a big difference.
Nothing throws off plans.
Yes, exactly right.
Awesome. Okay, so what was I about to ask you? A lot of us in various industries, not just in private wealth or specifically what we do, but across the whole economy, it seems, everyone's talking about AI. And just to take it back, like in the old days, if you wanted to trade stocks, you had to call up a stockbroker who then called their trader down in the pits to make that trade for you. Now you can just do it online. And even with Charles Schwab and Fidelity back in the day, they streamlined a lot of those processes and put traditional stockbrokers out of business. People did just fine, So I'm not too worried about AI stealing many of our jobs. But in the insurance business, there's a lot more algorithmic underwriting options. So it removes a certain layer of human involvement in insurance underwriting. There's a lot more direct, insurance company to consumer. So it cuts out, a certain class of brokers and agents. I think that there's still and will always be a role for humans to play in all of this stuff because people like talking to people. But in your line of work, in estate planning, do you feel any kind of pressure from AI or self-service estate planning platforms, specifically in the work that you do?
I would say I view AI more as a tool than doom and gloom for what I do. Now, AI still, I think, is not a finished product by any means. Nobody would say that it is. But for estate planning, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier in our discussion about the personal touch and getting to know a family and being there to help solve their problems, AI may eventually get really good and could draft a will and a trust for you. But the value that I add to my client relationships is more than just putting documents together.
Mm-hmm.
That's obviously important,
mm-hmm.
but there's so much more. And so that's why, like, I think AI could end up impacting some jobs in law firms where it's research or drafting, and that's all that job entails. But the advisors that are 10 years from now, I'll watch this tape and be like, oh my gosh, how could I have missed it? But I don't see AI replacing those roles because people, as you said, still want to deal with people.
Absolutely. And so that transitions into really more, what is your clientele? So I think that my hunch is that for probably 95, maybe even 98% of people in the US, the estate planning documents they need are pretty basic. But for you and your clientele, that's probably not the case. But what are really kind of like the clients that you add the most value to?
When I was in law school, like, I thought I'd be churning out wills and revocable trusts. I certainly do core estate plans all the time, but wills, revocable trust, that's a fraction of what I do. I thought it would be a much higher percentage than it's ended up being because there's so many different parts of estate planning. I advise corporate trustees who administer trusts. I am the trustee of some trusts. I help clients when they're about to sell their business. I help clients when they want to transfer wealth to their children, clients who want to save on taxes. We administer estates after someone passes away. So it really runs the gamut. And the clients, and I like how you phrased the question, because you said, where do you add the most value? Because yeah, like, I could do an estate plan for anybody, but at a certain point, the value I'm adding is not really there unless it's a family, total net worth. So not just liquid assets, but literally everything that they own. If that is north of $30 million.
Mm-hmm.
So putting state estate taxes to the side, because that is a whole area within itself. But where I could add the most value is families who are facing the federal estate tax, and what techniques can we use to be thoughtful about planning ahead for that tax. And that could come by either reducing the amount of tax that we expect is going to be owed. So it's not just about like minimizing taxes, but a lot of my clients are really wealthy on paper, but may not feel that in their bank accounts because they may be worth $100 million, but 90 of that is their interest in the business that they built. Mm-hmm. So you're facing a potentially really large estate tax, but where's the cash to pay it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where I pick up the phone and I call, who would I call? Who would I call in that situation? Mr. Hartz.
They wouldn't potentially be looking for liquidity for an illiquid estate, would they?
I don't think that's been done before. So that's why I think a lot of people, when they think about estate planners, also for the ultra high net worth, they're just thinking about, well, these are people that are trying to save money for their clients. And sure, that's something that we do. And there's famous Judge Leonard Hand, I think I may have mispronounced his first name. And now I'm going back to my law school days, but the famous case where he says, even the most patriotic American is not expected to pay more in taxes than he or she needs to. Mm. And so if there's techniques out there that you could shift more wealth to your family, that they can do something, whether that's philanthropic, whether that is whatever it may be, that's up to the family to decide.
Absolutely. I'm most impressed that you were able to pull Learned Hand quotes from memory.
It's been a while since I quoted Judge Hand, but it just felt right.
That's, I mean, also one of the all-time best names.
Yes.
in legal history.
Yep.
That's fantastic. No, I obviously identify with that very much, and the creativity that's involved in estate planning, in the way that you're doing it, not just drafting core estate planning documents, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say could probably be done pretty well by AI or a platform or whatever. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And there have been a number of times where I've had, particularly for brand new clients, they will come to me with a bunch of ideas that you could just tell that it was AI written.
Mm-hmm.
Or my favorite is I'll send out like a long email to a client, and like 10 minutes later, like a laundry list of really good questions, like really, really good questions. And it's like, that is superhuman speed or AI, because there's no way it would take you 10 minutes just to read what I wrote you, let alone then type up all these thoughtful questions.
That's amazing.
So, but what I've noticed sometimes is AI is a good conversation starter. Like if you are someone out there in the ether that is looking to start working with an estate planner, if you use AI to kind of get your bearings on the types of issues you may want to talk about with the attorney you work with, then I think that's a great idea. But I sometimes have clients who basically come to me and say, I want to put this strategy in place, and it's something that's AI written. And more often than not, there is something in there that does not work. And in the field that I operate within, even the smallest little foot fault could have a dramatic impact.
Right.
And so again, AI is imperfect. It's a good tool, but I encourage clients to use it as a tool and not as a replacement.
Okay, so finally, before we say goodbye for today, I often ask people about a book that is really important to them, because I think a book is a good window to the soul and helps people get to know you as a person. So Jeff, is there a book that really was meaningful and impactful to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first one that pops to mind, and I guess it's because it is something that had an impact on me, but I also read it to one of my daughters a couple of days ago.
Is it Black's Law Dictionary?
Right. No, it's A Tale of Two Cities. It was a late, we were up all night reading that. Actually, that is one of my favorite books. I love The Tale of Two Cities.
That is a great book. One of the only Dickens books I've actually read, but yeah, a great one.
And I wish I could find my copy. The annotate, like I think I underlined. I was a little annotation happy as a freshman. I think I was a freshman in high school when I read that.
Nice.
And
not
like,
surprising, by the way.
Yeah, like highlighter, and like it's like no word went unmarked. And I think Dickens would have been very pleased about that.
Well, he was paid by the word. So.
Yeah. But no, the answer that I would give you is actually, if you give a mouse a cookie. Classic childhood favorite of mine. If you're not familiar with If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, it's a book about, there's no character development. You don't know where the boy met this mouse, but there's a boy and a mouse. The mouse wants a cookie. And once you gave him the cookie, he wanted a glass of milk to go with it. And then when he asked for the glass of milk, he asked for a napkin. He keeps asking for stuff. Eventually, and spoiler alert, I suppose, I guess this book's been out for a long time, and so I take no responsibility if I ruined the end of this book.
Well, we can edit this.
Okay, but
this is the part we really need to edit.
Right. Now, the boy in the book obliged. Everything he asked for, he gave it to him. What it taught me is you need to set boundaries with really with everyone in your life. And now those boundaries will vary, certainly, but I'm reading this book, and this poor boy is running all over his house. He's finding a pillow. He's going all over the place. And it didn't seem like it was behooving the boy at all. And so same thing when it comes to really any relationship in your life. And this is how I'm wired. I love to give to other people, whether it's someone, another advisor, or prospective client. Like I tend to kind of show my hand early. Like a new client pitches, I won't like hide these great ideas I have. I'll come out with it because I like to give. But you need to have, there needs to be a point where you realize when am I giving and when am I starting to be taken advantage of? When do I need to set a boundary so I can protect myself from not being run all over? And so that is a much more serious take on if you give a mouse a cookie, but it's something that stuck with me.
Did you identify more with the mouse or the boy?
That's a good question. I think as a kid, more the mouse.
Interesting.
As an adult, more the boy.
I would definitely identify with the boy at this stage in my life.
Yeah.
Having kids,
Yeah.
as we both do, similar ages and number of kids.
Yeah.
I feel like, our lives are a constant stream of dealing with these mice.
Right. And I think that's why I answered the last question the way I did was, as a kid, you are kind of the mouse.
Yeah.
You're asking for whatever you can, a little bit extra dessert, whatever it might be. So honestly, that's not something I even thought about until this moment.
This is a very deep story.
Yeah, I do think about this book a lot, and I just read it recently, and but we've taken it to a different level now.
Absolutely. Well, I
have a lot to think about.
I can't think of a better place to end this conversation. I know I'll be pondering this all day long, perhaps even tonight.
And I want a cookie right now, to be honest. So I'm hungry.
Thank you. Deserve it.
Thank you.
Jeff, thank you so much for coming in. That's Jeff Glickman, fantastic attorney and friend and colleague. It's been a pleasure, and I hope we'll see you here again.
Jacob, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation. It was a pleasure.
Always.